Welcome to the best 5-minute wine podcast with Forrest Kelly.
Can we talk about what it costs for the class and how long it takes and all that?
Our classes are 90 minutes, and generally we're hosting the evenings, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're around $65 to $75, and you get to make and enjoy 3 cocktails plus the experience of hanging out, learning from the bartender, socializing. And so when I look at it, most cities you go to, you're going to pay $15, $20 for a cocktail now anyway. So 3 drinks is probably going to be $60. So I think, we also offer snacks. In some classes, we do a full dinner service. So for $75, I think that's a pretty good deal.
Oh, wow. I was expecting a lot more than that. Yeah. You've got some room for padding that price there. So do you make a video of them that they can, put on TikTok or whatever?
Oh, we were just talking about this. A lot of people film themselves. It's, like the most Instagrammable thing in the world is, making your drink, shaking, and then it's always beautifully presented at the end. So we have a lot of people that doing that. And I was just thinking we should install little phone holders at each station so people can mount their phone and film themselves.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Line it all up. And just in watching show like Bar Rescue, where they show them how to do everything. Is that how high of a level you're teaching?
Most of our classes, I wouldn't go that far. Occasionally we'll do industry trainings, distributor trainings, where we'll go more into technical detail on particular, building recipes, building drinks. Most of those folks already have all the basic skills down. I would say with our public classes and most of our private events, it's much more about the basics of stirring a cocktail, shaking a cocktail, how and when to use ice in the drink versus not. And then teaching some basic recipes like, this is an old fashioned, this is a margarita, this is a daiquiri. And most of the time we'll put a little spin on those recipes. So for example, in our boat drinks class we're doing for summer, we've got a blueberry mint mojito, we've got a strawberry pina colada, and then we're doing a cocktail called a jungle bird, which is like a tiki drink. Again, with the ingredients, all super simple to make. And all of them are just, a little twist on the classic.
Have you picked up any tips on this that you thought you knew in a personal way that you thought, okay, I didn't know that?
The more you learn, the more you realize you don't. It's like there's all these things that are at the tip of the iceberg. I think the most interesting thing I've learned that's been really fun to put into practice is basically all cocktails are just some riff off of the same, basically 6 templates. There's 6 basic cocktails. There's the old fashioned style, daiquiri, highball. I'm not going to get all of them, but essentially any cocktail you're drinking, you can narrow it into it's going to be one of these 6 categories. And so as long as you understand the formula of the proportions of the spirit versus the sweetener versus the flavors and the format of, the ice and the type of glass and things, if you have the formula down, you can kind of experiment and create anything you want using different ingredients. And that's been the really fun thing for bartending at home is I learned from these guys at Liquor Lab who are professionals, and I can go home and be like, man, I can, make an old fashioned, but then with just tweaking this one part of the recipe, you can turn it into 100 different things and figure out what tastes best to you.
I just like to see the experience when they've got the shake down, they're up around the ear and they do that twist with the wrist. And it's just so subtle, but it's just such a hypnotizing rhythmic motion that they're doing. But when you see somebody who's uncoordinated and they do it, it's okay, you're shaking, but you're not doing it right.
Or it's, clean up on aisle 5.
Yeah, I bet you've got some great video footage of that.
That's always my problem is the two-handed shake is pretty easy to keep it together, but as soon as I try to get cool and do the one-handed shake, I feel like I'm falling apart half the time.
Yeah, because of your wine experience, have you had sessions about piggybacking a wine experience, although, you're not going to be mixing wine, but trying to incorporate that into it as an added feature or something?
So we've done wine tasting classes. Pre-pandemic, we had a few wine tasting classes, and then over the COVID, we were doing a lot of Zoom events, and we did actually some beer tasting, coffee tasting, and wine tasting. And what I found is, most wineries do some kind of tasting room. There's a lot of places out there that you can go learn and you can taste brands and taste wine. There's really not anywhere else that you can come learn how to make cocktails like Liquor Lab. And so our strategy right now is let's focus on what we're the best in the world at, and we know we can create a unique experience. And let's let the wine pros, do the wine tasting at their facilities. And, we've partnered with people, we can do different things, but we're kind of focused right now on staying in our lane. And, I think that wine can have its place in a cocktail occasionally too. One of my favorites actually is a Port Manhattan.
Tell me about that.
Oh man. So Manhattan is basically whiskey and sweet vermouth as the basic ingredients. And if you swap out the vermouth for, I use like a ruby port, you get basically a similar flavor to a Manhattan. It's just a little more wine tasting. And I think it's a little more complex, and it's just really good.
Oh, wow. I got to tell my daughter that because that's her favorite drink is a Manhattan.
Swap it out for some Porto and it's amazing.
Okay.
The best 5-minute wine podcast.
Don't forget my favorite part.
Please like and follow. Oh.